What about becoming an adult? So adulting. What has that been like? What has surprised you the most from like you being a kid, big dreams, a rebel, I want to change things, and then I need to survive on my own?
I love this question. So I think when you become an adult, you understand that a lot of things in life isn't fair. That not everything is in the way that I have imagined in my head. If you're a visionary child, or if you're a smart child and you're always acing it in school for years after years after years after years, and you finally leave the school and you come in the real world and you realize, oh, the real world is so much different than what I had experienced in school.
Sorry. So I will start by saying hi.
Hello, hola, ¿cómo estás?
Oh, muy bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien también.
Nice. How long have you been learning Spanish for long, or is that just like words that you know?
I've had lots of on and offs. Started in school when 2010.
Okay.
It was the first soccer World Cup that I absolutely fell in love with, got obsessed with, and Spain won.
Okay.
And because I wanted to follow the news so directly and so closely, I had to learn some Spanish. And then Duolingo. And then when I came to Canada, Duolingo is good, yeah. When I came to Canada, then my best friend was a Colombian. You know, my ex was Colombian. A lot of Latin friends. So I continued learning a little bit more. And then some of it, you know, left my brain after I stopped, you know, and I moved to Vancouver and kind of like got distance from the community. And then right now, my assistant, she's Ecuadorian.
Yay.
If I pronounced it right.
Yes.
Yeah, from Ecuador.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn some more
Is she helping
sentences. Yeah.
Are you able to like have a little chat with her?
Yeah. So like what she taught me that I'm excited to share right now is la vamos a romper. And
That's right.
And I just say it to every client of mine who's a Spanish speaker, and I just love
Do they get all
the
hyped
cheer
and
in
excited?
their face. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Is it tough being a girl in Iran?
Oh yeah. Don't let me get started about that, because yeah, it's very tough. We believe we come with a lot of traumas because of the ideologies and the political views out there. Women aren't given the same respect. Women aren't given the same kind of autonomy as men do, and that creates a lot of problems in the country.
What was your experience as a girl? If you
Experience with what as a girl?
Well, growing up, like, for example, with me, I feel like I was very tomboy when I was little. I had two big brothers, to look up to. And I was not very girly at all. And I did not like girly stuff. I didn't like my cousins who were way older than me. I'm also in a weird age in my family. Yeah. And they were like getting nails on and makeup and wearing skirts. And I was like, ew. And
then you grew into that?
I did. I
love
did.
that.
And I feel like I've found empowerment in accepting and embracing femininity. But in Mexico, like I will say, one of the things, I love Mexico and it has great potential, but it's being very mismanaged. There's a lot of things going on. I feel so safe living in Vancouver because it's not safe living in Mexico. So that's something that I feel as a woman from Mexico.
Yeah. Very similar. very similar to yourself in terms of how I felt in society, not as safe. One thing I can tell you is, compared to the society, I felt that my mom was a lot more powerful than a lot of my friends' moms. She was a lot more independent, financially independent.
Is that common or not really?
Not so common, at least in my generation. It's getting a lot better now. But I remember my mom had a lot of autonomy in decision making, and I grew up that way as well. And I took a lot of pride in how I was different from most people that I knew.
Different
most
how?
of my friends. Strong, independent, smart. Role models, a lot of women who have high achievements. My role models were lots of female engineers, female entrepreneurs, female bosses that I didn't see around me as much. And I would strive to become like that. So I feel like that put a little bit of distance with myself and the society that I saw around me, which led to at a very young age, I always wanted to immigrate. I always wanted to move out.
But did you feel like you couldn't be who you wanted to be
Back
there?
home. No, that's the right way to put it. I didn't feel that way, and we also were the generation that we grew up with internet. Isn't that right? So you can see from young ages how other people in the West are living their lives, and you're striving to live that kind of lifestyle. But I learned a lot. I kind of shaped an ideology for myself. I kind of shaped a philosophy.
What would that be?
Have a lot of integrity, do a lot of good in the world, stand your ground, no matter what the society thinks. You're an individual. Very tough. Yeah. Very tough. A lot tougher than today. Because at that age, I felt like, At that age, I felt like I have to be tough and not let anybody in to prove something. Right now, I don't have those kind of guards. Because I, as you said, I live in a safer environment.
Good start.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to leave that behind. I'm going to do it this way. Too many eyes on me.
That's okay.
We're good.
Yeah.
One more.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me
try. Is it your turn? Okay.
Here. All right.
It's not fair to Mika. Now I'm going to do the same you did to me to her.
Be soft.
Okay.
No, don't be soft. Beat her.
Sorry.
You can beat her. I believe in you.
Batter.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
That's good.
Let's leave a good memory for her.
Not traumatize her. It's okay. I can get it.
Thank you. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Azza about her tattoos.
Oh right, she has
but
one.
now she's all covered up.
But she's secret. Like she said, secret tattoo holder. You would never know.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
Well.
So how many?
You guys already have saw two.
Yeah.
There's two more.
There's two more.
Yeah, maybe.
The intrigue.
Maybe one day we'll be close enough. We'll find out.
Maybe one day. I don't know if it's gonna happen over hot yoga or.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right.
What was the first one?
The first one was my matching tattoo. With my roommate, we wanted to commemorate our Saskatoon days as prairie girls. So it's over here.
Oh, is it the like flowery looking one? Oh yeah.
The wheat, yeah.
It's a wheat, yeah.
That's so cute.
And I have it over here. She has it over here. And
that's so
it was
cute.
a very big improvise. We did a road trip from Saskatoon to Vancouver and stopped on our way in Kelowna and got a tattoo.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
What was it when you first switched that environment?
First time I switched the environment was when I was 15, that I went to the UK.
Oh,
And it was fun. It was nice. I mean, A lot different than what I had imagined. One thing that I learned for sure was that growing up without your parents is going to be very difficult. To go back home.
Were you there
for a while? Yeah, and for a while of it, I was just like without my parents. Yeah,
for
studying. And then UK was so gloomy.
Yeah.
And I was coming from a very hot climate, very warm city. So I decided to go back and just live back home and study back home and get my bachelor's degree and come to North America and come to Canada. And then as soon as I landed here in Canada, I was so relieved. I remember I didn't experience culture shock or just homesickness at all.
So what was Canada like?
No, Saskatoon is very sunny. So I went to Saskatoon.
Yeah.
It was cold.
Very cold.
Very cold, yeah. So I landed from plus 30 Celsius to minus 3. So like in 24 hours. Yeah, that's the difference. And minus 3 for us back home is like rare winter days. And it was in September. Right?
You have more cold to get to, yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the weather, I experienced a lot of changes, a lot of things that I needed to adapt to. But in terms of the culture and feeling that, okay, finally I'm somewhere that I can feel free and be who I am, that's the nicest thing that I remember from really landing in Saskatoon and in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that, like, you got to be free and be who you are.
Yeah.
I feel
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
What is the biggest problem you've solved in your life?
Problem.
I don't know.
I mean, the darkest time in my life was when we moved, and I mean like my brother, my nephew, my niece, and myself, and we moved from Mexico to Canada. We arrived in Quebec, and it was just really hard, like not knowing people economically, just a really hard time for ourselves, and emotionally really dark. And I think trying to go through that with my nephew and my niece, trying to like be there for them, impart wisdom for them, also helped me be there for myself. So that's one that I can think of.
That's the biggest thing.
That's a tough
I would
act to
say,
follow.
yeah, for anybody who has immigrated, that's one of the biggest problems they've solved in their lives, just to adapt. So yeah, I hear you.
You?
I don't know. That's what I was saying. That's a tough act to follow. I mean, I don't know. I was trying to think of like difficult times I've had in my life. And there's been a lot. There have been a lot, but I also feel like I just did it. And so, I don't know, I'm thinking of when I first moved, when I was a kid and I first moved from our hometown, well, you keep saying that it's not, but where we grew up. And I moved to Mexico City, but I didn't really have any choice there. It was more like, I had to learn and adapt and, make a new life at 8 years old or something.
Okay.
And then the same thing when my mom died and I was 15 and I had to go back. And then it was like, go back to where a lot of people know me, but I don't remember a lot of people. And it's like, it's where I grew up, but it's also very unfamiliar. So it's not quite the same. And then also, like, adapting and stuff.
Yeah, that's big.
Back.
You?
Yeah.
Along the same lines as yourself. So going to a whole new place.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about it. And then from that point on, very, very short and summarized way of what my master's degree was all about. And my research was all about was I had to go to a very remote community of First Nations of Canada in north of Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And interview people and talk to the elders that most often they weren't comfortable speaking in English and hear their stories about their land for all the 50, 60 years that they've seen it and the changes.
Yeah.
And try to make sense of it and translate kind of the qualitative information that I got from them into quantitative measurements for the modelers back in the university to make sense of what kind of designs they're building.
What was the hard part for you?
The hard part was that I was absolutely clueless about where I am, what I'm doing, how to make sense of it myself. In a First Nation community of 1,000 people in north of Saskatchewan, goes a girl from south of Iran, and people spoke in a different language. They had a different culture. These are hunters. These are, Eskimo riders.
Wow.
And very, very different lifestyles.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that really helped me push through was to know that I was chosen for this kind of role.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of conflict between First Nations and white settlers, which is like other Canadians.
Yeah.
And they wanted someone who is a girl and who is not white to go in there and be the confidant and be the bridge between the two worlds. So that was really cool. Took me 3 years to figure it out.
Wow.
140 pages of dissertation.
Yeah.
But it was a very difficult, complex, wicked problem.
So much,
Yeah.
like to go back to that communication thing.
It was all communication. That's nothing other
Especially
than
that like bridge between two different worlds, two different peoples, and like to try to come together to understand each other.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
Actually, that's how I learned it.
Yeah?
All about communication.
What was going on if you remember anything, what was going on in your brain and in your mind when you were starting to do that?
Am I here was the only thought. No, seriously, because it's so different. And we had days that we were completely off the grid, living on a little piece of land that this family has built for themselves generation after generation. They are completely without electricity, no water, nothing.
Wow.
And they're living lives. And
That's
outhouses.
crazy. Yeah.
Have you ever been to an outhouse? It was the first time I went to a
one time
in the ground that you sit on top of it.
I'm so hippie. I'm like, oh no, yeah.
So that, and to learn that every couple months they cover the dig and they dig another hole. And also the fridge was also in the ground, under the ground.
That's really cool.
So super, 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 as you say, hippie.
Yeah.
But they had a nice sauna. So we had a good evening, routine, going to the sauna, get really hot, and then by the time you came out, it was cold, but you didn't bother. And I saw the first northern light right on that trip.
That's so cute. Did you have to stay there for a while then?
For in that particular place for 4 days. But yeah, for 2 months I was up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do you find is the hardest thing about communicating?
I listen to Tony Robbins a lot. I'm going to quote him right now.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot in terms of leadership from him. And what I was listening to last night that really resonated with me was leadership is the most sought out skill out there. That is not a position. It's just like communication, it's something that you need to have and you need to develop progress over time to be a better person and to give better service to other individuals. All right. So it's a critical piece. But then what makes it challenging is how are you able to lead other individuals and influence them is different from person to person. It's not one recipe that you can use for everybody. And what you need to develop is how quick can you understand what triggers people? What are people's values? And then that way you can communicate with them just the same way, in the most efficient way.
So the most difficult part is to understand the different people?
Exactly. And specifically those who are not similar to you. So they're more like unknown. And getting to understand them might come at frustration sometimes, right? And I feel
that.
like for majority of my life, I've never put myself in a position where I had to understand someone who is very, very different from me.
Okay.
That's what I mean by being in your comfort zone.
Right.
Right now, having my own business, building a life, building a family in a whole new environment.
You've encountered these people.
Yeah.
And how do you approach it?
Slowly, I'm open to it. I'm open to failing. That's very important. At the beginning, you're going to suck. We were just talking about it with your boyfriend, actually. It is difficult at the beginning. You got to be open and positive to failing. But know that eventually you're going to learn. Eventually, you're going to have to serve people who are a lot older than you. They might not give you the same kind of credibility that you want from them. Right.
Like, oh, you're such a kid. Like
you're such a kid. Yeah. Don't even talk to me. I know all the stuff that you were telling me. If it's a lot younger than you, they might not have the same level of maturity.
Yeah. Understanding, foresight, like planning ahead kind of thing.
Exactly. Or not feeling responsible enough to want to take action. So it might be a little bit more difficult to communicate with them. Or a lot of people who just simply come from a different upbringing than you.
Yeah.
And you want to communicate with this whole diverse board of individuals.
It really is such a skill, like communication. I feel like it's one of those things that you put in your resume, but you don't really know what it means until you actually experience how difficult it can be to communicate.
I know. I definitely had put strong communication skills in my resume when I had none. As an engineering student,
and then you're like,
none.
Wait, now I know what being good at communication is.
Yeah. And this is what I love. Going back to our point about taking action is the hottest commodity right now. It's only through doing it in a job that you learn from it. So like in a way, resumes for someone who's just fresh out of school, they don't mean nothing because you haven't done anything yet. Right.
True. I hear that. Like you would have to be very involved, and like for example, in my university, the second out of the 4 years, the second 2 years, we had class in the afternoon because we had to get a job in the morning, and that was I feel like a good approach. It needed to be bettered, but it was a good concept. I appreciate it. I'm glad that they were doing that.
Did that push you to go get a job?
Oh, I had to. It was a requirement. I had to have a job.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. And it actually like puts you out there. So it's a good introduction. So it's not just like, oh, I had a job while I was in university. It's not that I was just in school and then I have to get a job.
Good for you.
It was good.
Good for you. For me, it was the opposite.
The separation.
Yeah.
Between school and work.
Yeah. And you know why also it's important? Because during the ages of 23, 24, those are the ages that you really, really, really want to know who you are in this world and have an identity for yourself and build your confidence. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Those ages are super, super critical. And if you're just in school and you have no experience at any job, and let's say slight chance that you are not absolutely in love with what you're studying, which is a lot more common than than what we think of it, then it really crushes your confidence.
Yeah, because you have these, like you've been building it up. You're like, this is the thing that I want. And then you come to it and you're like, I'm not feeling great about this. But this was my plan. This was the thing.
That was the plan.
And you have to rework that from scratch. It's wild. So I guess that's kind of what happened to you. And I want to segue into this. Because from engineer, but then you're like, no. And then you went into finance, correct? Yeah. So I want to talk about money. What is money to you?
I love that question. Money is really a universal language, a universal tool.
Language
that we utilize to get what we want in life.
A means to an end.
That's what money is. Sorry?
A means to an end.
Yeah. in a simpler way, a means to an end. And what makes it a little bit tricky, because I see a lot of people having negative relationships with money, positive relationships with money. It all comes from what you translate the value and the worth of money in your own life. All right. And you can easily grow up feeling that, or thinking, believing that money is bad.
Yeah, I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like money is gross, money is evil kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How do we, or what has your experience been? Did you think that at first, at some point?
Yeah, there were, how can I say it? Yeah, there were some ideologies that would, translate into that for me as well.
Yeah.
Because my parents were both educated. They both worked really, really hard, studied really hard, and they were both employees. All right. So working really hard for someone else, you have a limited way that you can get compensated. You have limited control, and you're at the mercy of whoever is on top of you, who's going to pay you how much. The reality of being an employee.
Yeah,
right?
True.
And both of my parents were that. So there were some underlying belief that, okay, money isn't as good because look at all these people who are doing anything to reach it, and then they're using it for anything that is just like not a value to us. Okay, there's a lot of people who are using money as a bad tool. Meaning people who use money to, I don't know, control over other individuals or use it in any kind of wrong way, right? And so if that is the belief that you have, because you have a limited source of it, and anybody who is around you who has a lot of money is not making good decisions about it, then you translate money into being a bad thing or being a bad tool.
How did you go from bad tool to good tool?
I changed my environment. I changed my associations. And I also, when I say I changed my environment, I come from a different ideology back home, which has a lot of communist perspectives into it. I didn't want to say the word, but I think it's true, so I'm going to say it.
It's your experience.
Yeah. And then moving to a capitalistic country like Canada, where options are limitless. You can be anybody who you want to be, depending on how much effort you're putting in. And then you get to choose what you want to do with the money that you're making. So then you can actually, in this scenario, be the good guy with a lot of money and doing good and having positive impact in the world. It doesn't have to necessarily be a bad and evil thing, the same way as a lot of our countries are experiencing it. Do you agree with me?
I agree.
Is it similar, like on a national level in Mexico?
I think...
Or you wouldn't say that?
I think in Mexico, there's maybe two camps. And again, just like my experience, very narrow. There's people with privilege that believe that the more you work, that it's like up to you. It's all your work, and if you're doing the thing, if you have all the positive vibes in the world, you'll make it. And if you're not making it, it's because you're lazy. But I think that comes from a lot of privilege. And there's the other side of it where the system just works against you. And you can be working more than 40 hours a week and making very little money. And, like you spend it on a new TV that you have to make monthly payments to pay it through instead of saving or investing, because there's not a lot of education, and there's also that like the system works against you. You don't really know. You just try to live life by the day kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you're really helping me with this. Both schools of thought that you're telling me that the system is against you, but it also depends on how much effort you're putting in. Both of them exist everywhere. All right. In Iran, I grew up with the mentality that Yes, it does matter to a large extent how much you are putting the work in, but the system is always against you. And you can never get past it. So then it's up to you whether you want to give up or you want to try a little bit harder so that you're just like swimming a little bit.
If you work extra hard, do you get past that ceiling? Or
No.
That's just as far as you're going to get.
Yeah. All right. So I grew up with that mentality and then I changed it. I changed it slowly through better associations. So what I needed to be able to change all that programming in my head was actually seeing people who have got past the ceiling, put in a lot of hard work and effort into it, even though all odds were against them. And now they are using their money in a good way. You need to see a couple of these examples to believe that it can be true for yourself as well. That was it for me.
I think there's a very important thing in what you just said where it's like you need to see it. You need to see it around you. You need to see that it is possible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I think your context and the things that you surround yourself with are so important and almost in a very this is your destiny kind of way. If you stay in a place and what you want in life doesn't look like that, how are you going to get there?
I know. Right?
Like you really need to, I think this is what I'm getting from what you're saying is that one of the key things that changed for you was like literally coming to Canada, right? Like this would not have happened in Iran.
No.
And that's such a drastic change that you had to do because you're trying to have a good life.
Totally. And here's what I'm saying. Your reality is built on your belief system, your mindset, in the ways that you are translating things that are happening around you into meanings, right? And so in a lot of cases, you probably have seen the example of the dirty cup. All right. There's a cup full of dirty water. The only way that you can make water in this clean is by pouring enough of the clean water on top of it so that slowly, it can wash itself out. That's the only way you can do it. Our mind is the same thing. All right. Growing up, whatever programming, whatever society, whatever your parents or school has put in your head, you can only changing by seeing enough of the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
And immigration, I love it because of that reason. Because you're forced to live it in a different way so that slowly your belief system can change. Maybe it's first your action that changes, then it's your habits that are changing, and then slowly it's the mindset and the belief system that is changing. So it takes a lot of work. It's not going to happen over time. Unless you have such big power over changing your mindset, which again is a skill that you have to develop. But it's a beautiful thing. If you understand that, you can change anything about whatever is in your life that is bothering you, whatever mindset that is negative, whatever is that is in your head that is not necessarily serving you to become a better person in society.
I feel like that it's a little wild when you come to understand the power, the malleability, the flexibility, and even like your brain is so, what's the word? Like the elasticity of your plasticity. Yeah. I'm failing my psychology test right now. Plasticity. There we go. The plasticity of your brain. It's so wild. And that applies to your mind, to your behavior. You can really change so much of who you are, of who you become. And
just
it's all
changing what's happening up here.
It's like being conscious and then taking action and then growing habits. And slowly it becomes this ripple effect that really changes who you are. If you are willing to let go of who you were. You know, it's a little wild. But once you get it, I feel like it's so powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
It is super powerful.
I agree.
And you can't have all of that in one room here. I mean, everybody has a limited capacity, same way that everybody has a limited time. Everybody has a limited people that we can associate ourselves with. If you want to put the bad guys out there, you got to replace them by the good people.
choose wisely people.
Choose people wisely. Yeah. It's super important because, again, creates your action, then changes your habits, then changes your belief system, changes your programming, and you have a limited resource when it comes to anything in life, even money. So then if you have any kind of negative mindsets around money and you feel that they're not serving you in your lifetime, they're not putting you in a better place next year than this year, then you gotta change it with better mindsets.
Yeah.
And how are you gonna do that? By educating yourself and taking action on it. That's it.
All right. Last section of the interview, of the conversation, if you will.
I don't want this to end though.
Oh, I know. It's been so great.
It's so good.
But this just means that we can go out for coffee and keep talking. You know?
We should definitely
This is
do
how
that.
it starts.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a little questionnaire that Majo and I have built.
Okay.
And
Exciting.
quick answers, you know, a few
All
words,
right.
a sentence, if
Okay.
you will.
Okay.
All right. If your life was a color, what would it be now? Like in this moment. It doesn't have to be your whole life. Just right
Blue.
now. Blue. Any specific blue?
Ocean blue.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. If I have you over, what can I get you?
Flowers.
I love that. What's the last song you were obsessed with?
As It Was by Harry Styles. I'm still
Nice.
obsessed with it. I love it.
Nice. Okay. Best advice you've been given?
Ooh, but that's very difficult. I mean, I can only listen. I can only think of the latest one, the most recent one.
Okay.
If it takes less than a minute, just do it right away. Honestly.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Nice. When's the last time you said I love you?
Oh, maybe last time I saw Sina, maybe 2 hours ago. Yeah.
Adorable. Are you a I think I know. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
I am a morning person for sure.
Okay.
I
I
love
thought you
my
were going to
mornings
say.
more than nights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute. And you in one word.
Me in one word. Boss.
Love that. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Last thing. Can you give us a rec about anything? A book, a movie, a place in Vancouver, anything.
Yeah. You should definitely read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad if you haven't already. That's the fundamental book that you can change your mindset around money. And I recommend everybody. Do it.
Beautiful. Well, that was it.
Too soon. I don't want this to end.
How are you
so
feeling?
Good.
You
so
love it?
good. I'm pumped up.
Can I
Let's
have
go for
a hug?
another 2 hours.
Wait.
Yes.
Can I move? Is this? Are we okay? Thank you, peeps.
We are hanging out for another 2 hours. We're playing tennis.
Guys.